In this tutorial, I'll be breaking down the RAG services that I'd be picking from if I was building an AI-powered no-code app that needed RAG data as part of the response to my users. If I was building that today, these are the services that I would be using. But before I launch into a brief explanation of why you might want to consider using RAG in your AI apps, my name is Matt. I've been building no-code apps with Bubble.io since 2017, and on this channel, we teach people how to build SaaS apps using no-code. But why would you want to use RAG? Well, when you engage with an AI, it has all of this world knowledge, but it might not have specific niche knowledge either on your users or on a particular knowledge base area that you want to be providing deeper insight to your users. So, for example, over on planetnocode.com, we've transcribed hundreds, all our entire library of Bubble tutorial videos and courses, which is hundreds of videos. We've transcribed them, we've optimized the transcripts, text, and then we have vectorized that, and this is all part of the RAG process. This means that if you become a member over on our website, then you can ask a question of our videos and we will write you an answer with AI and provide you the recommended videos to help accelerate your journey towards launching your no-code SaaS app. And the reason that we do that is because we have that broader knowledge on a niche compared to, say, ChatGPT or Claude or any of those competitors. In fact, some of the best reviews that we've received from our users are simply saying that when you ask a question about Bubble.io with ChatGPT, you're often greeted with a mishmash of like traditional coding principles with something to do with Bubble that it's scraped off the internet. Whereas if you ask our AI, we are drawing out knowledge from our RAG database, and I'm going to be pointing you to the exact provider that we use in this video, and we feed that into the answer. So let's start off with perhaps where lots of people started many years ago, which is Pinecone. And Pinecone has grown a lot. In fact, Pinecone is probably the most fleshed out platform, but it can become a little bit daunting. But because they fleshed it out, they're now doing so much more in-house, whereas before you kind of had to buckle together many different services. But they've got RAG, they've got search, they've got recommendations, and they've also now got agents. And you need to think of it like a database that you maintain and then a database that you query, but your queries are using embeddings, and so you're then doing a semantic match, meaning that you're matching meaning. This could be useful if you are building like a therapy app and you know you're storing data that your users are giving about themselves in a Pinecone database. Remember to kind of be really conscious of privacy when you do that, and make really Pinecone uses workspaces to ensure that there's no crossover of data between your users. But this would mean that if they said something about their pet dog and then they said something a few days later about their cat, embeddings, vectorization, the whole RAG process is able to link together dog, cat, pet. They all have a similar meaning semantically, and so be able to retrieve the right data and feed that into an answer. Now, I've already done a video on this, but here are the limitations. You could also just use OpenAI. If you're using OpenAI's new responses endpoint, which is very similar to the chat completion and takes many of the features of the soon-to-be depreciated assistant endpoint, you can get going straight away, in fact, using their developer platform, if your knowledge base is based on, say, like PDFs. So if you've got a library of PDFs and you want your AI to have that additional knowledge, you can get started really quickly by using OpenAI and uploading a file, and then in your vector stores, linking in those files. And then when you do the chat completion with not chat completion, responses, here we go, with file search, then you are literally just saying, here's the vector store or vector stores that you want to be bringing knowledge into the chat response. But here's the downside, which is that they have built this platform around the concept of building a knowledge base up with files rather than just text snippets. So if you're working with PDFs, you could literally build a no-code ChatGPT clone with Bubble.io that is using files that you've supplied. You can build that in half an hour, and we've got videos covering just that. But let's say you want to actually have, in fact, let's have a look at CapyDB. Now, I am 100% intending to test out CapyDB in the next few weeks and to record a video because they've got their own approach. They have got something they've called Embed JSON, or EMB JSON. And that effectively means that it's a little bit like Pinecone, which is that you're maintaining a database and you're uploading. You're not uploading. In fact, you're adding in text, but you get to basically build your own structure of how that you basically get to build your own object and indicate which fields of that object should be part of the embeddings that then can be semantically queried. So I'd really recommend checking out CapyDB. In fact, since Carbon closed down earlier on this year, I've been thinking that CapyDB is a nice alternative service, except of course that Carbon had all of these additional integrations, like Slack channels, Gmail, being able to pull data in for your users. But if you're looking for simply text, or I can see that they've recently added in images, and you want that embedded and you just want it to handle the whole RAG process, including your find and your query, then CapyDB is a great service there. Now, most recently, it looks like Cloudflare are entering the arena, and they've got a service they've called AutoRAG. Now, I've looked into this, and similar to OpenAI, right now, this is going to be really quick if you are using files, but if you want it to basically run off a database, you're going to have to wait. In fact, they've got somewhere on here, or it's on the roadmap. Here we go, other data sources. So structured data sources like Cloudflare D1, you're going to have to wait until they release that, which they're saying is coming out later on this year. So if you want files, you could consider Cloudflare. If you want to maintain a database and to vectorize part of that, which is basically text, then you've got CapyDB or the one coming up. I would just say that given what happened to Carbon, I would be really careful about picking a provider that just isn't going to disappear. Like Cloudflare is not going to disappear. They power a phenomenally large section of the internet. They could, of course, do a Google, which is that they release a product and then it kind of stagnates and then they abandon it. But that's not something I'm aware of people complaining about with Cloudflare. So I would consider Cloudflare quite a solid solution if you are going to build your app around a RAG provider. And I would really hope, and I'm going to be all over it when the update comes out, of being able to basically use structured data rather than files. Now, the last one is Xano, and we've built our product for our members over at planetnodecode.com with Xano, and here are the two reasons why. First of all, Xano is a database first product, and then they've added in vectorizing as not a paid add-on, but as an addition. It's like a data type for a column. And you may have been aware of Xano if you've been a member of the Bubble community for some years, because Bubble is famously slow at doing big database events. Like you wanted to create 1,000 records, you wanted to delete 1,000, you want to update 1,000 records. Bubble is going to be slow. Even if you want to retrieve 1,000 records, it's going to be slow compared to a solution like Xano. And you can then build a whole Bubble app where Xano, it's kind of a hybrid database approach. I would recommend keeping your user registration in Bubble because the workflow actions make that so easy. But if you're retrieving large sets of data, or you want to store large sets of data, and even if you want to store data that is shared between a dev version and a live version, then Xano is a great option for that. So when I was considering where do I want to store all of our transcribed data in a variety of formats, plain text, I've got a JSON timestamped version, I've got our AI optimized like text snippet that is optimized for RAG retrieval, I landed with Xano. Now, do be aware that you have to be on a paid tier with Xano in order to use vectors. Can't see here, but yeah, so you've got to be on one of the paid plans in order to do this. But they're a fantastic database product if you just want to get started and try them out for free. And also, I learned everything that I need to know about building an app, or at least building a external database and querying that and building endpoints. I learned all of that from their free videos on their YouTube channel. So you can just search for Xano Vector, and I think you'd find some very helpful videos for building a vector database that you can query semantically and insert that data into your app with Xano. Finally, I recognize that this is such a fast moving space. Most days I have a slight addiction to checking Product Hunt, and obviously RAG, no code, making RAG accessible to people who want a drag and drop interface or minimal kind of simplistic API interface using a REST API, Bubble API connector, that sort of thing. This is a fast moving area of the market. And so if I have missed out a service, if there's one that you want to plug, please do leave a comment down below, because I will check it out. And if I think it's going to be helpful for the Bubble community at large, then I'll record a video about it.